I want to speak about the Islamic State because the imams and maulanas, hulle trek net soos aan soos ons eie imam. When I was here now, I could then identify with imam because I saw a lot of imams dressed like him in the Islamic State in Kelantan in Malaysia. As far as the marriage bill is concerned, you know that for the last 30 years, the ulama have lobbied government to give legal consequences to Muslim marriages, because if we die, our death certificate says never married, and that's an insult when you go to the grave. And so there was a Muslim marriages bill that was prepared by Parliament, but this bill has been, the ulama is divided on the bill. The ulama can't agree on one clause in the bill, and the bill is about 50 pages, and they can't agree on even one clause. With the result that there was a public participation program, and the government then decided they're going to scrap the bill. So the Muslim marriages bill has been thrown into the waste paper basket. And the Al-Jamaa political party, Maulana was included, went to Latula House, and we sat with Cyril Ramaphosa and all the other big top guns. He wasn't the president at the time. And they told us, look, we don't seem to know how to satisfy the Muslim community. Give us a bill that the Muslim community will be happy with. But at the same time, you must obey the constitution. Now, that was very difficult. So we went to a labor court judge, a Muslim judge in Pretoria, and we told him to write up a bill for us that will comply with the constitution and that will also satisfy, in our opinion as a political party, most of the ulama. Now the constitution says that marriages will be recognized in terms of the system of a religion. So if the system of your religion is the Hanafi madhab or the Shafi madhab or Shiism or Baha'ism or Judaism or branches of Christianity that the Pastora follow, because their marriages are also not recognized, the constitution says that whatever your system of religion is, no matter what it is, the constitution gives you the space to give it legal consequences. So what the lawyer did is he didn't go into the detail. He didn't go into the fiqh. He didn't go into the schools of thought which is part of the fiqh, because of the different opinions and the different angles, especially when it comes to marriage law. So the old Muslim marriages bill tried to go into the detail. They tried to satisfy the Hanafis and the Safis and all the other madhabs, but it was a whole mix-up. So all the new law says is that the system of your religion, no matter what it is, will be respected, and the government doesn't want to get involved in the fiqh. You must sort it out yourself. However, if you go to the religious body like the MJC or the Shura or the ICSA, and they give you a certificate of the outcome of the ulama body or panel that looked at the dispute, you take that certificate to the magistrate, and the magistrate will make it a court order. So at the moment, if the MJC or the Shura gives you a certificate, you can't enforce it. If they tell the husband, for example, jy moet die vrou nafaka, or this is what happens to the inheritance, and this is the issues around the divorce, you can't enforce it. But now the laws, we've changed the law that all that the a person with a dispute has to do is take the certificate to the magistrate, get it stamped, and becomes a court order. And if he disobeys the court order, which is the judgment made by the ulama body, then it's contempt of court. Then he can go to jail. So there is some enforcement. Inshallah, we have laid that before government. They changed the name to the Omnibus Religious Marriages Bill. So that is now before Home Affairs. They've established a legal panel to look at it, and there's a lot of pressure on the government to put it on the government roll so that they can pass it. Which means once the law is passed, the ulama must look after the fiqh side of things. But inshallah, we'll talk more about the Muslim Marriages Bill later on. As far as the visit to the Islamic State is concerned, Malaysia has got 14 provinces. We have 9. But they call their provinces a state. So 18 years ago, in the state where Sheikh Yusuf's father lived, the Muslim party, like ourselves, won the elections and they run the state. This year, because of the corruption amongst the Malay parties in Malaysia is baie corrupt. The last president stole 100 billion rand and he put it in Switzerland. And his wife stole more than him. Die vrou steel meer as die man. But they got bail now and we have to see what happens. So imagine as hulle steel, what about all the other officials? But upcover, they also get a cut. The Muslim party is the only party in Malaysia that's not corrupt. Every year they get a clean audit, 100%. In fact, it's 99.9. When I spoke to the chief minister, he told me, you know, Hanif, we're supposed to get 100%. There's nothing wrong, but the computers doesn't allow 100%. I said, we've got a column for the naughty. So we get 99% or 99%, yeah. So there is no corruption. The Islamic State for the past 18 years is the best run state in Malaysia. And all the other states, they get a 60% audit, a 70% audit. So because of the support for the Muslim party in Malaysia, they now have 3 states. So we visited the one state to find out how do they get the power to introduce the Sharia in their province, because Malaysia is not a Muslim country, it's still a secular country. There's Chinese, there's Muslims, and the country doesn't implement Sharia law. You see, what happens is that in terms of the constitution of Malaysia, they delegate 90% of their powers to the province. And the province can pass whatever laws they have, the state doesn't interfere. The state only worries about national security, about defense, and diplomatic relations, and so on. So that's why for the past 18 years, the Islamic State in Malaysia could implement Sharia law wherever it was needed. They don't put a lot of emphasis on the religious side because that is personal. They leave that to the sultans. You can't be a mosque if the sultan hasn't approved it. So every mosque will have a certificate to say that the sultan of that city has approved this mosque. So they leave most of the religious matters to the sultans to sort out. But one of the laws that they passed is, if you don't go to Jummah, you go to jail for 1 week. So there are certain laws that they are very strict about. One of the laws that they wanted to introduce was the hudud laws. Imam will tell us about it. If you steal, you must cut off your left hand. But the national government didn't approve it, because it would have caused an international outcry. So we find that I went to the Islamic State. They've got the international airport. It's very modern, shopping malls, and they make the best chicken that I've ever eaten in my life. Better as Nando's and Kentucky combined. So whenever you go there, please don't forget to go to that special place where they make that chicken. So, coming back to Sandvlei. You know that Sandvlei is where Islam started. Not Fori. Sheikh Yusuf heeft nie iemand geweet van Fori nie. They buried him in Fori to keep him away from the people. 4 or 5 kilometers away from Sandvlei. He never visited Fori in his lifetime, but he was buried there. So we make a lot of fuss about Fori, the Kramat, but we should be concerned about where Islam started. The Darul Boom, isn't it a Bumi? It was like a suburb in Sandvlei where the Muslims lived, the Darul Boom. Okay, there was a palm tree, and Sheikh Yusuf used to teach the Muslims in the Khoisan under that tree. So Sandvlei is very important to us because that's the roots of the first Muslim community in South Africa. But they were imprisoned there. There was amper soos hulle in Gaza was, they were imprisoned. There wasn't freedom. They did what they had to do. After Sheikh Yusuf died, I read the history books. Ek is ook 'n history teacher. I read the history books. And I read that 2,000 Malays came from the village where Sheikh Yusuf's father lived. So they came to Makassar, but they were fishermen. I can tell you that village that I went to, the best of fish, prawns, abalone, 20 soorte shellfish for about R5 a kilo. But they were seafaring people, and they saw opportunities to build harbors in South Africa for the ships to land and for them to work on the ships and build warehouses and so on. So when they came to Makassar, die water was te rof. Die vis wil nie byt nie. And then people told them, go to the Strand. The Strand was nothing, I was niks liewe in die Strand nie. So it was the 2,000 Malays that came from Sheikh Yusuf's village in that area. I think they called it Bali, nie Bali van Indonesië nie, Bali van Malaysia. And they were the first inhabitants of the Strand, Gordons Bay, the whole area. They lived there, and now and then they went back to Sandvlei. And from the Strand, they went to the Bullkamp. So the Strand, you owe the people of Sandvlei something. What the city of Cape Town does is they have a sewerage plant. Al die pou van die wit areas, Kailitsa, Makassar kom na daai plant toe. As die mense in die toilet trek, al land die goed daar uit. Met al die goed wat hulle het, die tissues en die toiletpapier, ek wil nie sê van die ander goed, as even babies se fetuses waar al land. So alles kon na die plant toe, en dan gaan hulle maak mooi die goed skoon, hulle haal die papiere uit, hulle haal die cotton buds uit. Dollar was daar uit gesien, maar hy was so finish, hy het weggeloop, hy kan dit nie gevat het nie. In any case, now they're supposed to clean the sewerage, soos hulle sê die pou, die regte stukke goed, moet hulle nou skoon maak, voor hulle dit in die rivier pomp. Nou pomp hulle dit in die Kuilsrivier, maar hy plant is so out of date, is 30 jaar out of date, dat 3/4 van die goed wat in die rivier gaan, is wat jy afgestoot het in die toilet. Nou, daar is germs in hy goed, daar is poisons in hy goed, daar is toxins in hy goed. Sandvlei het 300 families. Omtrent 200 is descendants van die Khoisan. 100 of 150 is van die Malays wat daar gebly het. En die community staan saam to a certain extent. En die rivier gaan verby hulle huise, verby hulle pere, hulle livestock, gebruik die rivier. Wat ek julle vertel van die rivier. Die rivier, die Kuilsrivier, is 'n ancient river. Hy het stryd gevloei verby Sandvlei. Maar